Happy October and happy spooky season. To me, October is the start of the festive season. I was a Disney Channel kid when I was younger, and October 1st meant the start of Halloween promotions. And once Halloween promotions hit your screen, that's it. You're in the long run until Christmas. It is cozy season. Grab a blanket, grab your pajamas, no more playing outside. Today I am kicking things off for the season with a Halloween themed photo edit tutorial. Last year I did a mini tutorial version of this where I showed you how you can create a kind of digital costume on top of a photograph if you wanted to have a seasonal piece of content or a seasonal photograph, but you're not really a dress-up person or you're not really into costumes. The one regret I had was that I didn't post it earlier in October because I feel like people would have gotten more out of it and you guys could have had a try at creating your own versions of it. So today I am going to do a full tutorial on how you can create your own spooky season photo edits, and I'm going to be taking inspiration from Hocus Pocus. As I am filming it this weekend, Hocus Pocus 2 came out. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm really excited because it was one of my favorite Halloween movies as a kid. I feel like Hocus Pocus and Halloween Town, when they came on TV, that to me was like pretty much the start of the countdown to Christmas as a kid. Today I'm going to do a Hocus Pocus inspired photo edit, and I'm going to bring you along for a little draw with me, talk you through the process, and hopefully inspire you on how you can create your own spooky season photo edit. The first thing that I did was I took some photographs. First thing that you might want to do is to grab some inspiration online. So I looked at some of the movie art from Hocus Pocus and I collected some reference images that I could first of all get inspiration for posing from, but then also kind of know the direction that I wanted to take the photo edit in before I actually took the photographs. You can think about how you want to pose if you want to maybe grab some household objects to use as props that you can then edit to something else later on. Top tip for taking these kind of photographs, make sure that you're taking them up against a blank wall. This is just going to make your editing of the background so much easier when you come to that part if you have a blank wall to work against. Another thing is to think about lighting. So I took my photograph in front of a wall that was in front of a window. I also used a ring light just to add some extra lighting. The next thing that I did once I had taken my photograph was that I imported them into an editing software. I used the Lightroom app on my iPad because I have some pre-created presets that I kind of apply to all of my photographs. Use whatever app or program you use to edit your photographs normally so you can apply the same color and light settings as you normally would. The third thing that I did in preparation for editing, which is an optional step if you'd like to, is that I imported some of my photographs into Photoshop and I used the object select tool to select myself and remove myself from the background of the photograph. This is going to make my editing process a lot easier because I can create illustrations behind and in front of myself as a figure in the photograph. If you don't have access to Photoshop or you don't use Photoshop, check your photo editing app on your phone or iPad. A lot of them have a background removal tool in there. Now that all my setup is done, I'm going to move to Procreate, which is what we're going to use for the majority or the rest of this edit. And let's get started. Okay, so I kind of narrowed it down to two different photographs because I really liked both of them that I wasn't sure which one to go for. I'm going to go for this one because I think I'm going to be able to achieve a photo edit that's a little bit closer to the original Hocus Pocus artwork. I'm also going to add a reference image to my canvas so I have something to refer to. So to do this, you go to your settings menu, your canvas settings, and then you're going to turn on reference. When you do your research work in terms of what you want to create as your pose or your character, you should save some of your reference images to your camera roll and then you can import them into your reference image here. So I really like the colors in this image and I want to incorporate that into my edit, and I also really want to try and incorporate some of that costume as an illustration. On the layer above the photograph and the cutout, I'm going to start creating the shapes to create my little orb or my crystal ball. I'm going to use my color picker to select a color from here. I'm just going to create a circle here. I'm going to turn down the opacity because I don't want this to be a solid object. I would like this to be more like a glowing orb of light. Like I said, I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to use my Gaussian blur to start creating these bits that are coming off of it like the light. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play around with just creating the light effect by adding more layers in darker and lighter shades of purple, and then using the Gaussian blur to blend them out so they look more like a glow than a solid object. Pretty happy with how this looks. Another thing that I played with was the opacity and the color filter settings. So I switched some of the layers to linear burn. You can see here, if I turn off the linear burn on this layer, it changes the way the color and the shadow looks. I also set one of these layers to screen. There's other things like soft light, vivid light. Actually, that looks pretty cool. So play around with the opacity and the blend modes and the Gaussian blur to soften the layers. The next thing that I need to do is I need to erase the parts of this globe that should be behind my fingers. So I'm grabbing my eraser tool and I'm just gonna roughly erase the parts that should be by my hand. This doesn't have to be perfect just because the object that I've created is more like a light. I think that parts of it are probably going to seep through the fingers anyway if it was a light. You know, in the hypothetical situation where I did have magical powers and was able to create an orb of light in my hands, I don't imagine that it would be a solid object. Use your imagination is what I'm saying. There are no rules here. Okay. I'm pretty happy with how this looks. I could probably spend another half an hour trying to perfect this, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I am going to move on. So I want to really tap into my reference photograph for the background, and I want to create a similar effect that they have here with kind of these gradient colors, these clouds, and possibly a moon as well. I am going to try just doing it with block color, and I'm just going to block in some color. Let's see what this looks like when we blend it out. So I'm using a softer watercolor brush and I'm going to start creating the effect of the clouds. Again, I'm just going to use a Gaussian blur just to soften it slightly because I've gone in and created some nice highlights here. Now I also want to add in the moon in the background here, so I am going to attempt to create a cutout of this. I'm going to insert my reference photo. Just going to roughly select the moon plus this little bit of clouds here. Click copy. Then I'm going to get rid of the whole layer, bring back up the cutout. I'm going to put it behind the clouds that I've created. I also think I'm going to flip it around. I want it to go in the other direction. And again, I'm going in and getting my trusty Gaussian blur friend to really soften out that moon because the background in my photograph is a lot softer and not in focus. The next thing that I want to do is create my kind of digital costume. I'm going to start by adding a layer above my cutout and below the glass ball to start creating the cloak. I think I'm going to go with the green here, grabbing my script brush again. So I'm just going to go around myself to create the hood of the cloak. Now I'm gonna add some light and shadow onto this cloak so it looks a little bit less like a piece of block illustration. To do that, I'm gonna use clipping masks to create some darker shades, blend them out with Gaussian blur, and then also some lighter shades. Now I think I'm just going to grab a pencil brush to add some highlight lines and shadow lines that aren't so soft. Just a little bit. I'm still working on that clipping mask layer because I don't want it to end up looking like a border or a line around the image. The last thing that I want to do to bring this whole thing together is to add some stars and sparkles in my style so that it also just kind of is cohesive with my creative style, and some light coming out of that crystal ball to give a nod to the original artwork from the movie. So I'm going to do that now and add some finishing touches. Okay, final details have been added, some sparkles and some magic, and it's time for a final reveal. So here is the photograph that we started with, and here is the finished result. Ta-da! I am so obsessed with how this came out. I think it looks amazing, and I think it is a lovely nod to the movie while also not being a direct copy of the original artwork. I think this really still is my style, and I'm so in love with how it came out, and I can't wait to share it on Instagram for Halloween. I hope that you enjoyed this Draw With Me tutorial and that you got some inspiration for your own spooky season photo edits. If you have any questions about any of the different steps that I took, or if you want a little bit of advice on how to create your own photo edits, leave me a comment down below and we can troubleshoot it together. If you liked this video and you enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to click that thumbs up. And if you want to see more content from me, especially as we head into the seasonal content season, If you want to see more content from me, especially as we head into the festive season, be sure to click that subscribe button and join the creative family. In the meantime, if you want some more spooky season inspiration or tutorials, you can check out this video next where I show you how to create Halloween and autumn inspired GIFs and how to upload them to Giphy so they're searchable on Instagram stories. That's all for me today, and I'll be seeing you in my next video.